second here. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy. I'm with the PACAC organization. I'm here just to give you a brief welcome before your presentation starts. So you'll be able to ask questions via the Q&A section. Your camera and microphone is off. I highly always recommend signing up for more sessions as well as watching recordings of past sessions that have already occurred. So I'm going to stop my share, mute my screen, and turn it over to our presenters for their wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for joining us and best wishes, everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I am going to go ahead and share my screen now. So give us just a second while we do that. All right, so welcome to the session. Today we're going to be talking about applying to college as an LGBTQIA plus student. So before we get started on some of the details, we're going to introduce ourselves quickly. So my name is Zach, and I'm an admissions counselor at the University of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh campus. I use he and him pronouns. And my contact information is up on the screen. We'll have that up for you again later as well too. So if you do want to reach out, please feel free. Just some brief information about me. I did graduate from Pitt with both my undergraduate and my graduate degree. My undergraduate degree is in anthropology, Korean and Japanese. And then I went on to do my master's degree in secondary social studies education.
Awesome. I didn't know that about you, Zach. How interesting. We'll have to talk about that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I work for Kutztown University of Pennsylvania, one of our lovely PA state schools. I earned my bachelor's degree at another state institution, East Stroudsburg University, and then I worked there for a plethora of years, and then I came on down here to Kutztown. So I just earned my master's degree from Kutztown in Student Affairs and Higher Education, and I'll actually be talking a little bit about some of the research that I did during my portion of the session. So welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gisela Vega, or Dr. V. I use she, her, they, them pronouns. I'm the director for our LGBTQ Student Center at the University of Miami. Originally from the Midwest, grew up in Chicago, went to school, did my undergrad at the University of Illinois at Chicago, both my BFAs in art design and graphics and education, and then a master's in instructional leadership from there. I went on to come down to Florida and got my doctorate in higher education from Florida International University, and am super excited to be part of this panel. And yeah, I learned a little bit about some of my two colleagues on here, so nice to have this opportunity to be here today with all of you.
So first what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a quick word cloud. So I'm going to have to stop sharing and share a different screen with you. So let me do that quickly. So you will need your cell phone for this, or you can go to the website and do it as well. It's going to give you a website to go to. You're going to put in a code to access the word cloud. So let me pull that up. Okay, so it's up here on the screen. You're going to go to www.menti.com. And when you're in there, you're going to put in the code 196241. And you're going to go ahead and answer this question, which is describe your college search in one word. Now, I know it says one word, but you can answer it multiple times. So if you have multiple words to use, go ahead and put those in multiple times, and we'll give everybody a chance to do that. And we should start to see them pop up on the screen. All right, looks like we got a little bit of a mix of nervous / stressed and excited, which is probably all very normal feelings for anybody going into the college search process, and definitely, especially for this year. So what we're gonna do today is talk about hopefully some things that will alleviate some of that stress. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. And we're gonna start off by talking about some different things that you should be looking at when looking at colleges, and things that you should be asking as well. And Tim is going to take over our first slide.
So again, everybody, my name is Tim. I'm one of the assistant directors of admission at Kutztown University, and I'm basically just going to be covering some student involvement and organizations through the application process as an LGBTQ student. So, you know, when you're looking at colleges and stuff, these are some things that you just want to check and take into consideration when you're applying. You want to make sure that the school that you're looking at and that you're going to encompasses some of these 6 bullet points here. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at a university or a college, you want to make sure as an LGBT student, regardless of where you are on the spectrum or in the coming out process, right? Because depending on where you're from in the state, you might not be out yet, and that's okay. You might be attending campuses with friends or your friends or family members that don't know that you're in the closet yet, or maybe you're on the very opposite side and you're out and you're proud, and that's great. So these are just some generic things that anybody, regardless of where you are in that process or in your coming out story, that you should be looking for. So first and foremost, are there LGBT organizations on campus? So as I said earlier, I just finished my master's actually at Kutztown in student affairs, and through that program, I was able to do some research with student involvement. And overall, the statistics show that students that get involved overall do better on campus. So speaking specifically to LGBT students, you want to make sure that wherever you're going, that regardless if you're going to be an active member or not, that there should be some type of LGBT student organizations on campus. Do you have the opportunity to go to a GSA, or maybe if you identify as trans, is there a trans group, or are there trans supports groups available to you to have that as a resource, right? So you want to check for these things. And even as you're on campus, maybe as you go for a campus tour, are there out and proud LGBT students on campus? Now, as I said earlier, if you're somewhere on that spectrum where, maybe you're not out yet, or maybe you're on a tour with your mom or dad and they don't know yet, but keep your eyes peeled. Look for like the rainbow flag, look for any of those symbols that potentially could give you that little signal, just to know that it's okay to be who you are on that campus, right? So I know on Kutztown, in our LGBT center, every window as you're walking outside the building has big rainbow flags, and the new and approved rainbow flag or the gay pride flag with our trans and additional stripes added. So not necessarily it's in your face saying, oh, there's a lot of gay people here, but it's at least, that little signal that there's a safe spot and a safe place for you while you're on campus, right? That's also leads into the next point, visible signs of pride. As you're walking around, do you see, anything like that, the rainbow flag, or any type of safe space stickers? Even here at KU, we have a safe space program through our LGBT center that students can participate in to be a KU ally, or a safe space trained ally, and you get little stickers and stuff for your door, to saying that you completed the program. So as you walk around campus, do faculty, do professors, do people like me and other people giving this presentation today, do they have safe space stickers on their door? Is it a welcoming environment, and things like that? So you just want to make sure that all of you're taking into consideration all of these different things. Is there an established LGBT center on campus? Yes, hopefully there is, right? Kutztown, we happen to have the largest physical LGBT space in the Pennsylvania state system, which is nice. We have a large space and a couple different areas for our students to utilize as club space and as recreation space, and it's just a safe space for LGBT students to go and hang out and to be who they are. Next, a liberal attitude overall. The campus, whether it be right in your face or if you have to do a little bit of research digging on the website. I know a lot of different universities put all their student organizations online, so you can kind of go through and do a little bit of research about the colleges that you're applying to. You just want to make sure that you see LGBT organizations and an overall liberal attitude, I guess, is what most students in the LGBT spectrum are looking for. And so lastly, having friends in the community, is that important to you? What are other ways that you can connect with students on campus besides just being in, clubs and organizations? Here at Kutztown, we have a lot of different networking opportunities for LGBT students. There are some support groups for intersectionality. We actually have a disabled trans support group that one of our students lead. He actually lives his life with polio, so he has this support group once a week where he can talk about what it's like to live on campus as a trans man and someone who has a physical disability. So there's a lot of opportunities through student involvement that you should be looking for and getting involved with. It does take a little bit of effort on your part to kind of just look and see, because every school is a little different, and some might advertise and might put things a little more in your face than others. So we as LGBT people have to kind of sort through all of that to kind of see what we're looking for. But I promise, there are a lot of things out there for you. And I think we're going to cover it in a little bit, but just to kind of, before I pass it off, the Campus Pride Index is one thing that we'll be covering a little bit today. And that's basically, if you've never heard of it, a website that schools can submit to and be reviewed and basically be approved as an LGBT friendly school through this LGBT organization. So we'll get into those details a little bit later, but you want to definitely start there as well. So I'm going to pass it off. I can't remember who is next. Policy. So I think it's going to Zach.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Take it away, Zach.
All right. So what I get to talk about isn't quite as fun. So, but we got to talk about kind of the nuts and bolts, right? So I'm going to talk about some things that you would want to look for at the college itself, and then also some things that you may want to talk to the admissions office directly about. Like Tim was saying, some of these things might be on a school's website and some of them will not be. Some of them might be really hard to find. So if you are in doubt, this is where we come in as admissions counselors, like please ask the admissions office. And we'll kind of talk about how that might work a little bit too. So one of the first things to think about, especially if you are a trans student, is what legal name will the university see? What will my professors see? For instance, when I was a student, my legal name was the only thing that a professor could see. However, over the last few years, Pitt in particular has made a lot of policies that the student's preferred name is what the professors will see and what most university staff will see. However, this is not perfect across the board. Sometimes I still get emails in my legal name and sometimes I don't. So, you might want to think about how that will affect your everyday life, knowing that for a lot of schools, it's not going to be a perfect system at all, but knowing that it's a possibility is a great place to start. Next question, unfortunately, gets into, really the root of the matter here is, what if I don't feel safe? What steps can I take? And we'll kind of come back to this a little bit with some other questions. So I'm going to skip it for now. But just thinking about that in the back of your mind as we go through a lot of these questions, because they all kind of feed back into this question. So do I want to tell the admissions office that I am an LGBT student? Excuse the typo there. I think this is a really important question to ask yourself because, as Tim mentioned, we're all in different spaces. Are you out to your family? Are you out to your friends? Do you want to be out to the admissions office? That's certainly not a requirement, but it is something that you could consider. So will this affect my admissions for positive or for negative, depending on the type of school you are applying to? But it could be positive. It could be that that school is looking for a diverse student body and they consider LGBT students to be part of that diversity. So that may help you. On the other side, they might not feel that you're a best fit for their school. So these are things that I would definitely encourage you to think about going through the admissions process. And is there, part of that is there something special that I should be putting on my application? A lot of different schools are going to have maybe different ways that you can give them this information if you decide you want to. Unfortunately, in this case, I can only talk about Pitt. There is not a place on the application for you to say, yes, I am a part of the LGBTQI community. So you would have to communicate that to us in different ways. It could be through an email, they're talking with your admissions counselor directly, maybe something that you talk about in your short answer responses and your essays. All these are ways that you can inform the admissions office, but it's not quite as formal as checking something off on a box when you apply. And along those lines, other things that you might want to think about that you could or could not give the admissions office would be also about your preferred name. Are you able to add it onto your application? For instance, Pitt's application, in general, it asks you what your legal name is. And then because unfortunately, we have to match it up with your social security number at some point if you'd like financial aid. But then it also asks you for a preferred name. Now, for some students, this could be their nickname, but for students who are trans, this might be their preferred name or what their friends use and their parents use or their guardians. It also will ask on our application, what was your assigned gender at birth and what is your gender or your preferred gender. So that can also be something that you can designate on the application. But not all schools are going to have that. So you'd have to consider, is this something that I want to provide to the admissions committee, even if they didn't ask it right out? Is this something that I could email someone about? And how is that information used? For instance, and I've been working to try and get this changed, but it's unfortunately not my decision. If you put a preferred name on the application, unfortunately, you're still going to get those admissions decisions with your legal name. So some things, aren't used the way that we would want them to. So you might have to think, is that something that I'm okay with? Even if I provide the admissions office this, are they going to actually use it the way that I want them to use it in? So now some of these last ones are going back to this question about safety. So do I feel safe on campus? And a lot of them are very important. So is there a written policy on bathroom usage? If so, what is it? And does it fit what you need? So for instance, at Pitt, the policy is that anyone can use any restroom no matter what their assigned gender at birth is. So that is the policy of the university. So therefore, if someone would harass you or complain, you can point back, or not you personally, this would be the diversity office, but you would point back to the fact that this is a policy at the university and it's built into your rights as a student, which is very important. Something else that's obviously really important, especially for students who are maybe being away from home for the first time, is there gender inclusive housing? And if not, what are my options? So if there's not gender inclusive housing, do you need to live with the housing of the sex you were assigned at birth, or do you have other options? So asking that is very important. This is something that if the school does not have gender inclusive housing, you will probably not see on their website. So this is where I really do encourage you to reach out to those admissions counselors if you want to have the answers to these questions. And then lastly, but just as important, are there scholarships for LGBTQI students? And if there are, how would you go about getting one of those scholarships? What do you need to provide? This might go back to the questions about, do I want to tell the admissions office about my orientation in any way or gender identity in any way? Because if they do need some sort of written statement from you, or it's in your short answer questions or whatever they're looking for you to receive one of these scholarships, you would want to know about that in advance. So I know that was probably not the most exciting things to think about when you're looking for schools, but a lot of these do relate back to, like I said, we want you to feel safe on campus. So we want you to be asking these questions, whether it's by looking at the website or actually asking the admissions office, but they're very important questions for you to think about.
Thanks, Zach. And I think the important thing is, we want you to find community. We want to make sure that that your campus is there to support you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens in classrooms and out of classrooms, questions to be asking yourself. I think one of the things, that Zach mentioned was, the university policies. And I think you definitely want to see if we are a protected class or if LGBTQ is a protected class at your institution. If it's in the overall arching policy at the institution, I think that's really important. So make sure and check that out. And those are, you can find them. They may take a little bit of digging, but you definitely want to know where you stand at the institution in a broader sense. And I did want to share too with scholarships, be aware that there are national scholarships options as well. Things like the Point Foundation, making sure that you check out local and even programs, which I'm going to get into in a second about academics, tell you a little bit about some of the hidden gems in terms of additional scholarships and things you may be looking for. Well, let me tell you that when I went to school, we didn't have any of this. So it's really exciting to see our LGBT centers to have a session like this. I mean, this didn't exist when I was in college. And actually, one of the reasons I chose to go into this work was because these centers, these support services didn't exist for LGBTQ individuals. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what to look for in support systems. And I know we mentioned a few of them already, so I may touch on them again really quickly. But I know one of the question asks, are there out LGBT faculty and staff? And can you speak to them? Most likely there are. Tim mentioned early on Safe Zones. Safe Zones is a program that happens nationally at a lot of institutions. They may be called different things. For example, our Safe Zone is called the IBIS Ally program. And so those are folks, faculty and staff that have been trained to be there as a support and a resource for you. So, trying to figure out if they have a safe zone. A lot of faculty and staff, they want to help. They want to help LGBTQ students. We, for example, and I know several other institutions have an LGBT mentorship program. So you may want to check out to see if they have an LGBT mentorship program where they pair faculty, staff with students. Are there out allies from top down within the university administration? And does the institution support LGBTQ initiatives? Yes and yes. There's always folks that are out. Sometimes you need to go find them. Sometimes they may come out. We here at the U hired the first out dean for the law school. And he makes it a point, to say that every time he speaks, to let people know that there is a visible out faculty dean person for our students to reach out to. So do your research, find out who the faculty staff are on campus. And usually if the institution has LGBT initiatives, you're gonna find them. You can probably go to the website and type in LGBT or LGBTQ, and you'll see a bunch of different things come in. And that will tell you how committed the institution is to meeting the needs of our population. I know Zach talked a little bit about gender inclusive housing and gender neutral bathrooms. The only thing I'll add to that is there is a national website called refugerestrooms.org. You can go to that site and put in your location wherever you're at, and it's going to tell you if there are gender inclusive restrooms in your vicinity. It's also, a lot of campuses have entered their gender inclusive restrooms on that website, so you can check that out. And then also, as Zach said, you want to check to see if the institution has a map listing all the gender inclusive restrooms on campus. Let's see, is there an established LGBTQ center or office on campus? And if so, what services does it provide? As the first LGBTQ student center in South Florida on a college campus, I can tell you that not every school has them, but the ones that are there, you will be able to find them. Check into them. They'll tell you the resources. My information's, was on that front sheet. It's also on here. Feel free to reach out. Usually, if you check out the center, they will have a listing of what their purpose, what their goals are. Ours is primarily to serve the needs of our students. We consider ourselves the heart of our LGBT community. So we do everything from one-on-one counseling to providing ongoing support through programs and different initiatives. Each center is going to look different because each center's needs in terms of their students might be a little bit different. The other thing, when we go into the classroom, you want to check if you're interested in going into work that might work with LGBT folk, or maybe you're going to focus on gender and sexuality studies. See if there's a program. If your institution or the institutions you're looking at offers an academic major in gender and sexuality studies or LGBT studies, queer studies, those are all up and coming. It's a relatively new field still, probably 40, 50 years old, but it's one that, lends itself for a lot of different majors and a lot of different things you want to do. If you're going into nonprofit work, if you want to teach, make sure you check that out if that's an area of interest for you. Two quick other things, and then I know we're going to talk a little bit about Campus Pride and some other things, but Student Health Center, find out if it's inclusive to LGBTQ students. What services do they provide? Do they provide services for our trans community? And if so, if they don't, do they have a referral system where they can refer students off campus? So again, good questions. These are fantastic questions to think about, whether you're in a classroom, outside of classroom. The last question on here is, are there other services on campus that you feel are important? Make sure you take the opportunity to walk around campus and pay close attention to what you see and what you don't see, especially if you do a tour. If you go to the rec center, do they have gender inclusive spaces where people can change and use the rec center? If you're walking through, the union, do you see student orgs? I know Tim talked a little bit about that in the beginning, but tours are important, so you can visually check out what's going on, right? So back to Zach, I guess.
All right, so Tim, do you want to pull up the college the Campus Pride Index really fast, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do our word cloud at the end. I'm going to stop sharing and let you do that.
Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I muted myself as I was getting on there. So this is the Campus Pride Index, and basically it's broken down. You could look by state, region, whatever. Obviously, we'll take a look at PA since that's what we're doing it for. So just scroll down to Pennsylvania, and then this is going to basically pull up a list of all the different LGBT friendly schools that are in Pennsylvania. Now, I do have to say, with the Campus Pride Index, what this does is, in order for someone to be on here, they have to submit for it, right? Like this just doesn't go around to every college and it's like, oh, you're going to be on our index or not, unless you're bad, because there is a bad section on here that it's like, you are not LGBT friendly. If you are LGBT and you're out and you're proud, you shouldn't even consider. But there's up to 5-star rating, and you can kind of go through and see, who's what star and some of the different amenities that they have. So Kutztown is proudly a 4-star. We have 4 stars on the index. We've worked very hard as a little poor PA state school to get on here. We just actually celebrated our center's 15th year. So we're very proud to be on here. But this website is a great tool that you can utilize to see what colleges you're interested in applying for, or whichever ones you already are interested in applying, if they're LGBT friendly, or if you want to just utilize this tool to see which ones are near you that already are LGBT friendly, you can use that as well. So it's a pretty amazing tool to have. Additionally, there are some LGBT college fairs. Now, there's not a whole bunch of them. Most of them do take place in some of the larger cities, but to just give you an idea that there are just specific LGBT recruitment events and college fairs all across the country. I attended the one in New York City last year, and it was amazing to be in this big room of just all these proud schools for all their awesome programs and stuff that they have, but most importantly, that they were, proud and accepting of LGBT, and it was just full of rainbows and a lot of fun music, and it was great. So definitely take advantage of this website. This is something that, as Gisela said earlier, this wasn't around, not even when I was going to college, just 10 years ago. We didn't have these resources. So the fact that we have all of these things available and ready at your fingertips for you to utilize and take advantage of in your college search process, use it. And if you have any questions, regardless of it's about this or about anything that we talked about today, don't hesitate to reach out. And, if you need any help or have any questions. And before we get off of this, here's the safe space. This is the generic safe space training program. Some schools call it different things across the country, but generally it's something like this. And that just basically means that they did some type of training program to acclimate themselves more and make themselves more familiar with LGBT students, and information about the LGBT community. And it's just, a place that that you can go and be yourself and be safe. So a lot of great resources are on here. I definitely recommend that you take advantage of that. Anything else to add, Zach?
No, I don't think so. Let's do our last word, Cloud, if you want to
Sure
get
thing.
screen control back.
Let me stop share. There it is. Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen once again. This will be the second to last time here. So we've got our second word cloud question. You will have to go back and put in a different code for this one, but same thing. You can reply multiple times if you have different words. So how do you feel after this session is the question now. So I'm hoping that we feel a little more relaxed, but we'll see when we get some of our responses back. And the code is 4573034. And I'll give everybody a second to put some words in there. So it looks like overall that we've got a little better response. And, I've been saying this to students that I've been meeting with all, since March, right? This is, first of all, an unprecedented year. And we as adults can only imagine what you guys are going through, especially your senior year of high school and the questions that you're having to ask yourself that you never thought you might have to. So, it's good to acknowledge that this is a very stressful year beyond what it normally is. And that any steps you're taking to make it a little easier on yourself are going to be hard fought, but worth it. So, and I'm going to end the share again. We are going to put our contact information back on the screen. And then, so you guys can write it down. If you do have any questions, you can reach out. And then if we have any questions, you can use the question button at the bottom of your screen to ask a question, and we'll be able to see it. So you could go ahead and do that. And did anyone else have any things that they wanted to say while we're waiting for questions to come in?
I'll add, depending on where you're at, whether you're out or not, know that a lot of these places, if there are services, you can usually talk to someone in confidence, let them know. I'll give you an example with our mentors program. We call our mentors program the IBIS mentorship program. And, we have like guidelines with our faculty and staff and students that are involved in that program. In terms of expectations, if you run into each other, what can be shared, what can't be shared. And we certainly want to respect everyone and where they're at in their space. So know that even if maybe you're not out, there are staff and faculty that can still help you sort of maneuver this process and get the answers that you're looking for, that you don't have to be completely out or out at all. Even if you're just, maybe struggling, not sure, know that these are resources that you can still use and talk to. And, we want nothing more than to help you be successful in your college experience.
So one question that I get a lot from students is that I'll ask you guys, and then I'll answer it as well. Is what, and I think we're all from slightly different generations of college attendees. So we all will probably have a little bit of a different answer for this, but what was it that you were looking for in your college search? Like what was maybe not the most important part, but what about your identity or sexual orientation caused you to look for something specific in that search?
I'll start because I probably went to school the longest time ago. So at the time when I was starting school, my sexuality, I wasn't even there yet to deal with it. I had so many other things I was dealing with, being a Latina female in the Midwest. I came from a working class family. And for me, one of the big issues was really financing and finding somebody that had what we call college capital, because being first generation also, I didn't have that. So I didn't know what to expect in college. I didn't know what the process was. So one of the things I did was I was fortunate enough to kind of seek out a place that sort of had some resources on campus that could help me answer some of those questions. Again, unfortunately, when I was in school, the sexuality piece wasn't, that these centers didn't exist. So that was like a non-question, a non-issue, although it was probably the biggest issue at the time. So what I did was I kind of focused on some of those other pieces that I needed to look at and think about, again, first generation Latina, working class, lower income. I was worried about school. I didn't know what to expect. My parents hadn't gone to college. So I was looking for folks that could kind of share their stories and maybe give me some pointers. And one of the things that was really important was finding a good mentor, like a faculty staff member that I could go talk to. That was crucial. And even in this whole process was using my guidance counselors, friends who had gone or were going through it as people to use as a sounding board for me.
I'll go next. So during my college process, I was, coming from northeastern Pennsylvania in the middle of the woods. I was not out and proud in high school. Some people knew, and I mean, it might be a little obvious to some as well, but like for the most part, that's not how I was identifying. So when I was mentioning earlier about being on a campus tour and seeing that rainbow flag or seeing that little tidbit that like, you might not think about it right then and there, but that's what I was looking for. Like when I was on my tours and I was looking for not only a good academic program and a good like rigor that fit me and my work ethic, but also I was looking on the back burner that no one knew about, that I was looking for that rainbow flag. I was looking for a space. I was looking for other people that when I got there that they were going to be like me. So it was something that I really was looking for, but wasn't advertising that I was looking for. And then when I got to my institution for my bachelor's, we didn't have an LGBT center. We had a very small organization, and me and a couple other students fought as a group and opened the first center at the university. So you start off in one place and you might surprise yourself at where you're going to end up and the person that you become, but overall it's for the better. So just wherever you are at in your identification process, just keep in mind what you really want in your heart, and you'll be okay.
That was so nice.
Yeah.
My answer is so crass, and I'll follow up. I feel like we actually had pretty similar experiences when it really came down to it. I was also not out in college. I know that I look like I'm still in high school, but I am 30. So I graduated a while ago as well too. But I also was not out, and I was so far deep in the closet that I wasn't even really thinking about it as an issue. So I was looking for something kind of similar. I was looking for that vibe that I would fit in here. So I was kind of looking for people who I could relate to, but not necessarily people in the LGBTQI community. But I was looking for kind of like a cosmopolitan type environment on campus. So not just that people were part of the community, but were they part of other communities? You know, were there international students? Were there students who were, you know, like quintessential like nerds that I would get along with? You know, people who were not necessarily like mainstream America or mainstream Pennsylvania. So yeah, I think we all kind of did look for something similar in the end. Was it didn't have to be so specific as some of the topics that we brought up today, but we were looking for that overarching view of will I be accepted and will I make friends, which I think is one of the most important things you could think about. We did have a question come in while we were talking. So the question that we'll just answer live is, do you know if some colleges offer programs if you want to work with LGBTQIA students, for example, social work or gender and sexuality programs, and what might each college offer for that? So I'll answer really quickly for Pitt. We have both a social work program, undergraduate and master's and doctoral. And we also have those same levels in gender and sexuality studies as well too. So you can go all the way up with either of those programs. And you'll hear this from your counselors when you're at whichever college you pick, there is not normally a way that you have to take. There are so many different paths to get to your end goal. So if you want to stay in social work, that's great. If you want to be more on maybe on the research side of things, which might be the gender and sexuality studies, that's great as well too. You're not going to find a one size fits all major if that's what you want to ultimately go into. You could go through education. You could go through public health, might be a good way to go. There's so many different types of routes you can take. So you don't have to look necessarily for that gender and sexualities program at the school you're attending, because that's not the only way to get to where you're going. But if that is what you're interested in, then that is definitely a route that you can take. Does anyone else?
Those are good points, Zach.
Yeah.
I'm going to add a few other things. One is, I don't know if you're aware, I've worked with a couple of different social work programs and LGBTQ issues on different campuses. And there is a National Association for LGBTQ social workers. It's part of NASWA, which is the National Association of Social Workers. They actually have a branch that works specifically with LGBTQ social workers. You may want to check that out. And actually, I mentioned mentorship earlier, but to talk to them, talk to some of the social workers that are there, see what kind of programs, how they crafted their program, what they looked for. The neat thing is that, yes, you can become a social worker and you would go get your degree in social work, but how you choose to go there, if you do independent studies or research, it can focus on the area that you're interested in. Also, checking gender and sexuality study programs are really important, because a lot of these programs will have minors that you can kind of craft for your specific interest. So for example, we have an LGBT minor that can be crafted to have the component of social work as your, one of the areas of concentration. So you want to make sure and see what are the different programs that are out there and what you're looking for, and also speak with folks who are out there doing this work. I know we try to kind of give our students resources in the areas. We try to set them up with internships. One of the groups we work really closely with here is the Yes Institute, who's kind of a research base, and also they do a lot of work in training for social work programs in colleges. here in South Florida. So you may want to check once you know what school you might be interested, if there's something in the community that kind of will help you get to where you need. The last thing I'll share, if you go to a lot of our LGBT nonprofit orgs that are doing work in the community, you'll find that the caseworkers in those groups generally are coming from a social work background. So even doing some of that research to get some of that real life experience, to know what track folks have taken, also helps out, I think.
All right, well, we are out of time. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We really have a great time talking with you. Like we said earlier, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'll hopefully be able to make some connections with you in the future. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. At the close of the webinar, you will see a quick survey, so please take a moment to fill that out. And again, feel free to sign up for any additional sessions and watch any pre-recorded sessions that have already occurred. Presenters, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Guests, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank
How
you.
are you?